The night they stripped my rank in the briefing room, Mother texted just 3 words, "Come home now." I thought it would be my safe harbor until she whispered on the wooden porch, "Still weak." They pushed me out of the cabin I built with my own hands, right after my sister signed the order that buried my career. I didn't scream. I opened my mission notebook, marked my targets, and turned that cabin into the landing zone for the cleanest counterstrike of my life. My name is Nora Lakefield, and I've spent 12 years building walls that no one could breach until my own sister found the back door. Tuesday morning at Stonebridge Defense Command started like any other. Coffee at 0630, security briefing at 0700, quarterly review at 0900. I'd prepared 47 slides showcasing my team's performance intrusion attempts down 68%, response time improved by 42%, 0 successful breaches in 91 days. The projector hummed steadily as I clicked to slide 14 network resilience metrics when Colonel Elise Marrow stood up. My sister, 3 years older, 4 ranks higher, infinite capacity for strategic cruelty. "Captain Lakefield," she said, using my rank like a scalpel. The room's temperature seemed to drop. 23 officers turned their heads in synchronized precision. "Effective immediately. You will surrender your badge, sidearm, and insignia." The projector kept running. My slide still glowed. Readiness level plus 42%. This quarter. The irony tasted metallic. I didn't ask why. In 12 years of service, you learn that public execution doesn't come with explanations. Those arrive later, in sanitized memos and redacted reports. My fingers moved with muscle memory, unclipping the badge from my chest, removing the Sig Sauer from my hip holster, unpinning the captain's bars from my collar. Each item made a distinct sound as I placed it on the conference table, plastic on wood, metal on wood, pride on wood. "Your clearance is revoked. Security will escort you to the gate." Elise's voice carried the same tone she'd used at Thanksgiving dinners, passing judgment on my life choices between courses. I stood, keeping my spine regulation straight. 3 of my people, Sergeant Mac Rowan, Lieutenant Ivy Torres, Specialist John Park, rose from their seats, not in protest, but in solidarity. Their boots struck the floor in perfect unison as they followed me out. The sound echoed down the corridor like a 21-gun salute in reverse. The walk to the gate took 4 minutes and 37 seconds. I counted. Security Officer Daniels, whom I'd trained 2 years ago, couldn't meet my eyes as he collected my parking pass. "Captain, just doing your job. Daniels." My voice stayed level, professional. Inside, something crystallized, not anger, but clarity. Cold, sharp, tactical. My phone buzzed as I reached my truck. Unknown number. I let it ring out, then pulled my field notebook from the glove compartment. Page 1. Fresh ink, AR after action review. In combat, you document everything immediately, while the wounds are fresh and the details sharp. Timeline 0, 9:14 hours, Elise stands. 09:15, orders issued. 09:19, weapons surrendered. 09:24, escorted out. The interesting part, I'd submitted my quarterly report to the secure server at 0800. Elise had my data before she stood up. She knew exactly what she was destroying. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unlisted number. "Check your access logs." I started the engine, muscle memory taking over. The drive home, no, to my apartment near base would take 18 minutes. Enough time to process the first layer of this operation, because that's what this was, an operation. Planned, coordinated, executed. The question wasn't why. Elise had always resented my success, my methods, my refusal to play political games. The question was how, and more importantly, what trail she'd left behind. As I drove past the base perimeter, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. No tears, no trembling. Just the same face that had stared down network intrusions, insider threats, and system failures. The same face that had built the most secure network architecture Stonebridge had ever seen. They'd taken my badge, but badges were just plastic. They'd taken my rank, but rank was just protocol. What they couldn't take was what I knew: every backdoor, every vulnerability, every timestamp and log file that Elise didn't know I'd been backing up for 3 years. My phone rang once more. This time, I recognized the number Mom. "Come home now," she said, and hung up. Home. The cabin at Silver Fern Ridge, bought with deployment bonuses, built with my own hands during leave, the one place Elise's influence shouldn't reach. I turned onto the mountain highway, my field notebook open on the passenger seat. At the next red light, I added one more note: check access logs. E.M. signature. The metal taste in my mouth wasn't fear. It was the flavor of incoming war, served cold. The drive to Silver Fern Ridge took 3 hours through winding mountain roads, each mile climbed higher, away from Stonebridge's manicured lawns and toward the raw pine forests I'd chosen as sanctuary. My cabin sat on 12 acres overlooking Lake Larkwater, purchased with cash from 3 deployment bonuses and built over 2 years of accumulated leave. Every nail, every board, every stone in the foundation I'd placed them myself or supervised their placement. It was mine in a way nothing else had ever been. The gravel driveway crunched under my tires at 2:45 p.m. Both cars were there. Dad's pristine sedan and Mom's SUV with the Yale alumni sticker. They'd driven separately. That meant they'd planned to stay. Dad opened the door before I knocked. Harold Lakefield, 67, retired federal judge, still wearing his courtroom face despite being in flannel and jeans. Nora, not sweetheart, not honey, just my name, flat and final. Dad. I stepped inside my own home like entering hostile territory. The cabin smelled different. Mom's lavender perfume overlaying the cedar and pine I'd carefully preserved. She sat at my dining table, my handcrafted table, with papers spread before her like battle plans. Patricia Lakefield looked up, her eyes tracking the scar on my left-hand shrapnel from an IED in Kandahar, the purple heart she never acknowledged. "Sit down, dear." She poured tea from my kettle into my cups. "You look tired." I remained standing. "Why are you here?" "This is a family property," Dad said, closing the door behind me with deliberate finality. "We need to discuss its future. It's not family property, it's mine. Deeds in my name, paid with my money, built with still weak." Mom's whisper cut through my words like wire through clay. She wasn't looking at me but at my scar, her lips barely moving. "After everything, still so weak." The words hit exactly where she aimed them. The same words she'd said when I was 7 and cried after breaking my arm, when I was 17 and came home bloodied from defending a classmate, when I was 27 and called home from Walter Reed, learning to use my hand again. "Elise called," Dad said, settling into my leather chair, the one I'd bought to celebrate my promotion to captain. "She's concerned about your stability, the dismissal, the stress, the isolation up here. We think it's best if you sign the cabin over to the family trust temporarily, for safekeeping." Mom slid the papers toward me. Pre-printed, professional, probably drafted by Dad's golf buddy who handled estate law. Lakefield Family Trust, property transfer agreement. The signature lines already had dates. "You mean Elise wants it?" I picked up the papers, scanning the legal language. "Transfer of deed, irrevocable for 5 years. Management decisions requiring unanimous family approval, which means Elise gets veto power over my own property." "Don't be dramatic," Mom said, but her fingers drummed against the table the tell she'd never fixed, even after 40 years of faculty dinners and judicial galas. "Your sister is trying to help. She says there might be legal challenges to your dismissal, asset seizures, investigations. The cabin could be vulnerable." "To what I haven't done anything wrong." Dad's judge face cracked slightly. "That's not what the preliminary report suggests." "What report I was dismissed 3 hours ago?" They exchanged glances. Mom's drumming stopped. The silence stretched until the grandfather clock I'd restored ticked past 3 p.m. Elise has been managing the situation for 2 weeks. Dad finally said, minimizing damage, protecting family interests. 2 weeks. The crystallized clarity from earlier sharpened into diamond hardness. She's been planning this for 2 weeks. Planning to help you, Mom corrected, but her voice wavered. Sign the papers. Nora, stay here tonight if you must, but the transfer needs to be filed by tomorrow morning. Elise has arranged everything with the county clerk. I set the papers down gently, controlling every micro-expression. I need time to read these properly, and I need coffee. Mom relaxed fractionally. Of course, dear. We'll stay until— No. I moved to the kitchen, keeping them in peripheral vision. I need space to think. Come back at 6 p.m. I'll have an answer then. Dad stood, his height still imposing despite his age. This isn't a negotiation. Nora, your sister outranks you now in every way that matters. She outranks Captain Lakefield, but I'm not captain anymore. Am I? I'm just a property owner, and in this cabin, I outrank everyone. They left reluctantly, Mom clutching her purse, Dad's jaw tight with judicial displeasure. Through the window, I watched their cars disappear down the mountain road. Then I went to work. The lockbox under the floorboards in my bedroom held 3 things: an encrypted external drive, $10,000 in cash, and a burner phone still in its packaging. I activated the phone, installed a VPN, and logged into my personal server, the one running on a Raspberry Pi in a safety deposit box 2 states away. The access logs were waiting for me. Elise Marrow had accessed my directories at 2:13 a.m., 2:47 a.m., and 3:05 a.m. 2 weeks ago. 3 attempts to copy everything before finding the right permissions. The timestamps lined up perfectly with the preliminary report Dad mentioned. My sister hadn't just stabbed me in the back. She'd spent 2 weeks sharpening the knife. The Mountain View Diner sat at the intersection of 2 forestry roads, 15 miles from my cabin. Truckers, hunters, and locals who wanted real coffee instead of Starbucks. Perfect neutral ground. I arrived at 7:15 p.m., chose the corner booth with sightlines to both exits, and waited. Mac Rowan entered first, scanning the room like the staff sergeant he was. Ivy Torres followed, laptop bag slung casual but her eyes sharp. John Park came last, carrying a manila envelope thick enough to be body armor. They slid into the booth without greetings. Some conversations don't need preamble. Coffee first, Mac said, flagging the waitress. Long night ahead. We ordered black coffee all around, plus pie that would go untouched. When the waitress retreated to the kitchen, John pushed the envelope across the table. Everything we could pull before lockout, he said. Print logs, email chains, network topology maps from the last 6 months. Ivy has the digital copies. Ivy opened her laptop, screen angled away from the window. Your access logs were scrubbed from the main server, but I pulled them from the backup mirror before they thought to check there. Elise's digital signature is all over your directories. And, Mac added, sliding a second, thinner envelope from his jacket. Building security footage, parking garage, server room, executive floor. Amazing what the night security guys will copy for someone who remembered their kids' birthdays for 5 years straight. I pulled out a paper napkin and uncapped my pen. Sometimes the best operational planning happens on disposable surfaces. 3 chains, I said, drawing triangles. Timeline chain every stamp from 2 weeks ago to today. Command chain every order, signature, and approval. Benefit chain who gains from my removal. Hollis Keene wants in, Ivy said quietly. Remember him, former JAG. Does civilian practice now. He heard about this morning and called me. Says he's been watching Elise's patterns for years. I knew Hollis. Brilliant, methodical, and carrying his own grudge after Elise had sabotaged his promotion board 3 years back. Get him here. 20 minutes later, Hollis walked in silver-haired, sharp-suited even at 8 p.m., carrying a briefcase that had seen actual briefings. He sat down without ceremony. False official statements, abuse of authority, Conspiracy to destroy federal records, he said without preamble. That's just from what Ivy showed me in the parking lot. Give me everything, and we can bury her legally. I don't want to bury her, I said. I want her to bury herself publicly. Hollis smiled the kind of smile that had made prosecution witnesses sweat. Even better. Two-track approach. File with the Inspector General at Stonebridge for the military side. I'll handle the civilian angle, starting with preventing any asset seizure of your cabin. They want me to sign it over to a family trust. Papers already drawn up. Don't sign anything. In fact, he pulled out his phone, typed rapidly. I'm filing an emergency injunction against any property transfer under duress. Judge Hawthorne owes me favors. It'll be stamped within the hour. John spread out the network maps. There's more. Elise accessed the classified partition 2 days before your dismissal. Not her usual directories, yours. Specifically, the intrusion detection protocols you designed. My coffee turned to ice in my stomach. She's planning to disable them. Or already has, Mac said grimly. There was an anomaly this afternoon. Small, but the kind of thing you taught us to watch for. I stood up, decision crystallizing. We need physical backups. Now. Everything on drives. Encrypted. Distributed. Ivy, can you... Already started. 3 sets. Military-grade encryption. I need one more thing. I looked at each of them. This stays clean. No laws broken, no systems compromised without authorization, no blood. We win by the book, or we don't win. Roger that, they said in unison. I grabbed the paper napkin, now covered with operational triangles and timelines. John, photograph this, then burn it. Mac, I need you to... My burner phone buzzed. Unknown number, but the message made my blood chill. Nice meeting at the diner. Love the window booth. Stay quiet or stay buried. Attached was a photo me, at this table, taken from outside. Timestamp 2 minutes ago. I didn't flinch, didn't even look toward the window. Instead, I pulled out my personal phone, took a photo of the threat message, and added it to our evidence file. Change of plans, I said calmly. They're watching, so let's give them something to see. I stood up, shook Hollis's hand formally, and spoke just loud enough to carry, "Thank you for the legal advice, Mr. and Keene. I'll consider my options regarding the cabin and family matters." The others played along perfectly, exchanging pleasantries about weather and sports. We left separately, different directions, different vehicles, but before I left, I stopped in the restroom and lifted the toilet tank lid, wrapped in waterproof plastic, duct-taped to the porcelain a flash drive Ivy had planted when she'd arrived. Our real insurance policy, back at the cabin, I found a note under my door. Mom and Dad came by. You weren't here. Sign the papers by morning. I went to my workshop, the one room I'd soundproofed for power tool use, under the drill press platform, beneath a false bottom I'd installed myself. I placed the encrypted drives. The cabin they wanted so badly had just become my weapons cache. War was coming. But this time, I knew the enemy's position, tactics, and weakness. Elise thought she was playing chess while I was still learning checkers. She forgot I'd been playing Go all along. North Annex Telecom Station sat 12 miles from the main Stonebridge compound, a forgotten relay facility that still processed auxiliary communications. My access card shouldn't have worked. Elise's oversight, she'd revoked my primary clearance, but forgot the secondary systems. Arrogance always leaves gaps. 3:22 Wednesday morning. The parking lot held 2 vehicles, mine and the night tech's rusty Honda. I knew his schedule rounds at the top of each hour. Netflix in between. I had 36 minutes. The server room hummed with obsolete but functional equipment. These machines held mirror logs, duplicates of everything that passed through Stonebridge's network, archived for federal compliance. Elise could scrub the main servers. But these dinosaurs, she didn't even know they existed. I pulled up the terminal, fingers flying across familiar keys. Command prompt, authentication, query string. The green text on black screen felt like coming home. Marrow login detected. Multiple sessions. all nocturnal February 3rd, 2:13 a.m. Accessed Cha Ops Archive NL, February 3rd, 2:47 a.m. Copied 847 files from .ops archive NL to external February 3rd, 3:05 a.m. Initiated batch delete cancelled by system, February 4th, 1:33 a.m. Accessed personnel records, in Lakefield, February 5th, 4:18 a.m. Modified audit logs, partial success. My hands trembled as I documented everything, phone camera clicking, capturing screens. But I needed more than pictures. I needed immutable proof. SHA-256 hash generation cryptographic fingerprints that would prove these files hadn't been altered. I ran the algorithm on every relevant log file, saving the output strings. Then I found it draft document Transition Review NLV1. Docs created January 28th, 11:14 p.m. Author E. Marrow. Last modified February 2nd, 9:47 p.m. She'd started planning my removal before the quarter even ended, before she'd seen my success metrics. This wasn't reaction, it was premeditation. Another search revealed email fragments in the cache to Lati. Calder win from call. E. Marrow subject. Friday, cleaning. Ensure backup archives are sanitized before Friday review. Focus on Q4 operational logs. Eliminate redundancies. Eliminate redundancies. Military speak for destroying evidence. I inserted my flash drive. Initiated the copy process. Every log, every timestamp, every fragment of communication. The progress bar crawled 40%, 50, 60 footsteps in the hallway. Not the tech's soft shuffle boot strikes. Military precision. Multiple sets. 70%. The door handle turned. Locked. But that would buy seconds, not minutes. 80%. Keys jingling. The night tech's voice. Sir, I don't think anyone should open it. Now. A voice I recognized Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Webb, Elise's executive officer. 90%. The lock clicked. The door opened. Webb entered with 2 MPs, hands already reaching for sidearms. 100%. I ejected the drive, slipped it into my pocket, and turned to face them with my hands visible. Colonel Webb, interesting night for a visit. You're trespassing on federal property, Lakefield. I held up my access card. Still valid on this system. Want to check? He snatched the card, examined it. His jaw tightened, it was legitimate, and we both knew it. You're interfering with an ongoing investigation. What investigation? I haven't been notified of any investigation. Have you notified my lawyer? Because that's required under, you don't have a lawyer. I pulled out my phone, showed him Hollis Keene's business card photographed earlier. As of 7:43 p.m. yesterday. I do. Federal statute requires notification before accessing or restricting a subject's data. Did you notify? Webb's hand moved toward his sidearm. Not drawing. Just resting. Intimidation 101. Careful, Colonel, I said softly. 3 witnesses here. The security cameras you're standing under, and the live stream I initiated when I heard your footsteps. His hand froze. You're not streaming anything. I turned my phone screen toward him. The recording indicator glowed red. Not streaming, just recording, but he didn't need to know the difference. Stand down, Webb ordered the MPs. To me, you have 60 seconds to leave this facility. 59 seconds more than I need. I walked past them, steady pace, no running. Running meant guilt. In the parking lot, I sat in my truck and waited until they emerged 5 minutes later, Webb barking into his phone. Only then did I drive away, taking 3 different routes, doubling back twice, before stopping at an all-night copy shop 40 miles away. I made 3 physical copies of the drive's contents, printed the hash values, and sealed everything in separate envelopes. One addressed to Hollis, one to a journalist friend at the Washington Herald, one to the Inspector General's office. I took photos of each sealed envelope with timestamp verification, then mailed them from 3 different post offices. By 6 a.m., I was back at my cabin, brewing coffee as sunrise painted Lake Larkwater gold. My phone buzzed a text from Hollis. Injunction approved, they can't touch your cabin. Also, IG wants to meet. Bring everything. I smiled. The first real smile in 48 hours. Then I opened my laptop and started composing an email to the one person Elise feared more than anyone, Major General Patricia Santos, commander of Stonebridge, who'd been asking for months why network performance had suddenly improved. Subject line: quarterly metrics and security concerns, urgent review requested. Attachment: my 47-slide presentation, still dated from Tuesday's briefing, showing my team's success. The second attachment, a simple text file containing 32 hash values and one question. Why did Colonel Marrow access these files at 2:13 a.m. on February 3rd? I hit send just as my parents' cars pulled into the driveway, here to collect the signature that would never come. The morning light through the window caught the glass of water on my table, my fingerprints visible on its surface. Evidence of presence, of ownership, of truth. Just like the digital fingerprints Elise had left all over her crime. Thursday, 10:15 a.m. My phone erupted with notifications from the Stonebridge emergency channel, the one I shouldn't have access to anymore. But Ivy had forgotten to remove me from the civilian notification list. Network critical authentication cascade failure. Mission systems offline. I sat at my cabin's kitchen table, watching the alerts multiply. Coffee cooling, parents' unsigned papers still spread before me, and my sister's carefully constructed world beginning to collapse. The failure pattern was familiar. It matched exactly what would happen if someone bypassed the tiered recovery protocol I'd designed. That protocol required 3-stage verification before any system-wide changes. Tedious. Yes, but bulletproof against both attacks and stupidity. My burner phone rang. Mac, breathing hard. It's happening. Elise ordered Wynne to implement her streamlined efficiency protocol for the readiness presentation. Removed your verification stages to make it run smoother. And authentication keys corrupted. Can't validate any user credentials. The entire mission network is locked, has been since 9:32 a.m. 13 hours of downtime meant missed communications, stalled operations, and visibility to every superior officer in the chain of command. In military terms, career suicide. There's more. Mac continued. Emergency command meeting in 20 minutes. Major Brandt is asking questions. Loudly. I pulled up my laptop, connected through VPN to watch the base's public status board, the one families use to check deployment schedules. Even that was showing errors. Elise had broken everything. Another call. This time, Hollis. The IG's office just contacted me. They want to know if you have documentation about the security protocols that were removed. Every version, every changelog, every approval signature. Bring it. 2 p.m. sharp. Oh, and Nora. Your sister just submitted an emergency request to expedite your cabin transfer, citing operational security concerns. Judge Hawthorne laughed and denied it. By noon, the failure had leaked beyond Stonebridge. The secure forum where defense contractors coordinated was buzzing. Someone had posted, "Stonebridge went dark. Heard it was a procedural error, not enemy action." Procedural error. The worst kind of failure in military systems. It meant human incompetence, not technical limitations. I was reviewing my protocol documentation when Dad's car returned, alone this time. He knocked properly, not assuming entry. "Nora, we need to talk." I let him in, but remained standing. "About the papers I'm not signing." "About your sister." She called Patricia, hysterical. Something about systems failing and people blaming her. People should blame her. She removed safety protocols to make herself look efficient. Dad's judge face cracked completely. "She said you sabotaged. I was locked out of the base Tuesday morning. How could I sabotage anything?" I showed him my phone's location history. "I've been here or in town since. Check the cabin's security cameras if you want." He sat down heavily. "What's really happening?" Elise wanted me gone because my success made her look weak. She took shortcuts to hide it, And now she's learning why those protocols existed. My phone buzzed. Ivy, with a screenshot from the base emergency meeting, Major Fiona Brandt, standing at the briefing room podium. The approval signature for the protocol override is yours. Colonel Marrow, explain. Elise's response was partially cut off, but I could see. Captain Lakefield's overly complex systems. Brandt's follow-up was fully visible. Captain Lakefield's systems worked perfectly for 3 years. They failed 13 hours after you modified them. The correlation seems clear. I forward the screenshot to Hollis with a note. Print this for the IG meeting. Dad read over my shoulder. His voice went quiet. She really did this to herself. No, Dad. She did it to me first. The system failure is just karma with a timestamp. Another text. This time from John. Cole, Webb is trying to restore from backup, but Elise had Wynn delete the recent backups to save server space. They have to rebuild from month-old archives. A month of configurations, updates, patches all gone. It would take weeks to fully restore. Dad stood up slowly, aged 10 years in 10 minutes. The cabin papers, your mother and I, we thought we were protecting family assets. You were protecting Elise's version of reality. There's a difference. He picked up the transfer documents, folded them carefully, and put them in his jacket pocket. I'll tell Patricia. Don't expect an apology, you know how she is. But there won't be any more pressure about the cabin. After he left, I sat on my porch, watching Lake Larkwater ripple in the afternoon breeze. Somewhere at Stonebridge, engineers were scrambling, Elise was deflecting, and Webb was realizing his superior had handed him a live grenade. My phone showed 2:05 p.m., past time for the IG meeting. But I didn't move. Hollis would handle the formal presentation. The evidence would speak louder than I ever could. By 6 p.m., 3 things had happened. The network was partially restored using my old protocols, the ones Elise had called overly complex. Major General Santos had issued a base-wide communication. All system modifications must be approved by the Chief Technical Officer and the Security Board. No exceptions. The Inspector General's office had formally opened case IG 2024-7823. Investigation into unauthorized system modifications and personnel actions. That evening, Mom finally called. Her voice was controlled, measured. Your father explained the situation. And a pause. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. Perhaps you're not as weak as I thought. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't warmth. But from Patricia Lakefield, it was acknowledgement, the rarest currency in our family. I sat at my kitchen table that night, cabin deed secure, career destroyed, but reputation intact, watching the last light fade over the lake. Tomorrow, I would go to war properly. Tonight, I documented everything in my field notebook. Enemy revealed position through unforced errors. Advantage mine. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. I sent 3 texts to Elise. Family meeting at cabin, 2 p.m. Terms of resolution. To my parents, need witnesses for property discussion, 2 p.m. To Hollis, bring the IG team, 2:30 p.m. Evidence presentation. Then I went to work transforming my cabin into a courtroom. The living room already had security cameras. I'd installed them after the first break-in attempt 2 years ago. But now I added something else, 4 discrete microphones, legal under state single-party consent law, with visible notices posted at both entrances. This property uses audio and video recording for security purposes. If they entered, they consented. Simple as that. I connected everything to my laptop, set up the projector I'd bought for teaching tactical classes, and loaded my evidence files. The PowerPoint was simple timeline, access logs, command signatures, system failures, facts without emotion, arranged like dominoes. At 1:45 p.m., I placed a printed copy of the state recording laws on the coffee table, highlighted and bookmarked. Next to it, the Inspector General's preliminary findings. Hollis had shared not the full report, just enough to show the scope. Mom arrived first, parking carefully away from the security camera's field of view. Still playing judge's wife even here. Dad followed, then Elise in her spotless dress uniform. Medals arranged perfectly. She'd worn her military bearing like armor. "Thank you for coming," I said, professional as any briefing. "Coffee's ready. Please, sit." They arranged themselves predictably parents on the couch, Elise in my leather chair, leaving me standing. The power position, she thought. "Let's be clear," Elise started, voice commanding. "This meeting is about preventing further damage to the family reputation. Your little stunt with the IG, my stunt." I clicked the first slide. "Let's review stunts." The projector showed the timeline. January 28th, first draft of my removal. February 3rd, unauthorized access to my files. February 15th, forged justification documents. February 18th, my dismissal. "You planned my termination before you had any cause," I said calmly. "Then you manufactured one." "Prove it," Elise snapped. Click. Next slide, her login credentials accessing my directories at 213 a.m. Insomnia. Elise. Or just couldn't wait until business hours to steal my work. Mom shifted uncomfortably. Dad's judge face had returned, but now he was evaluating Elise. Click. The draft termination document, created 2 weeks before my dismissal. "This is circumstantial," Elise said, but sweat beaded at her temple. "You're right. Let's get specific." Click. The email to Lieutenant Wynne. "Eliminate redundancies." Standard efficiency language. "Is that what you call destroying federal records?" I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app visibly. "Say it again, for clarity." "You can't record this. This is a private family meeting." I pointed to the notice by the door. "You entered a posted security zone. Consent is implied." Elise stood up. "This is entrapment." "This is documentation. Sit down, Colonel. We're not done." She remained standing, but her authority was cracking. "You don't deserve this place. You never earned it properly." "Everything you have came from shortcuts. From being everyone's favorite, shortcuts." I laughed. Actually laughed. "I built that security system line by line. I earned this cabin with deployment bonuses while you were playing politics in D.C. "Still weak," Mom whispered, almost involuntarily. Then, louder, to Elise. "She's always been weak. You're the strong one. Fix this." There it was. The family dynamic laid bare, recorded in high definition. "Fix it," I asked Mom directly. "Like Elise fixed the network. It's been down for 37 hours. Mission-critical systems, offline. Because the strong one thought she knew better." The doorbell rang 2:29 p.m. 1 minute early. The IG team's precision was beautiful. "Who is that?" Elise demanded. "The consequences of your fixes." I opened the door. Hollis entered with 2 IG investigators and Major Brandt, who'd insisted on witnessing this herself. "Colonel Marrow," the lead investigator said, "we need to discuss your signed authorization to bypass security protocols." Elise's face went white. "This is a family gathering, which is being recorded," I added helpfully, "with posted notice and implied consent. Everything said here is admissible." Major Brandt pulled out a tablet. "Colonel, can you explain why you ordered the deletion of backup files dated February 3rd through 15th? That was routine maintenance. The same dates you accessed Captain Lakefield's secured directories." Silence stretched. Mom gripped Dad's hand. Elise's medals caught the light as her chest heaved. "I did what was necessary for the unit," Elise finally said. "What unit?" I asked. "The one that's been crippled for 2 days because you removed my protocols. The one that's facing congressional inquiry because mission communications went dark. That unit—" The lead investigator cleared his throat. "Colonel Marrow, effective immediately. You're suspended pending full investigation." "Surrender your access credentials." Elise's hand shook as she pulled out her badge. The same motion she'd forced on me, now reversed. But when she looked at me, expecting triumph or gloating, she found neither. I was just tired. Tired of fighting family. Tired of proving my worth. Tired of being called weak by people who mistook cruelty for strength. The cabin deed remains in my name, I said quietly. The investigation will proceed without my interference, and this family will never again presume to judge my strength. Mom stood up, moved toward Elise protectively. You've destroyed your sister. No, I replied, meeting her eyes steadily. I documented what she destroyed. There's a difference. As the IG team led Elise out, not arrested, just professionally escorted, she turned at the door. This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. The door closed. Silence filled the cabin except for the quiet whir of the projector, still showing evidence of betrayal, and the soft sound of my mother crying, not for me, never for me, but for the daughter who'd finally faced consequences. Dad stood up, aged and hollow. We'll go now. They left without goodbye. I watched their cars disappear, then turned off the projector, saved the recordings, and stood in my cabin alone and undefeated. The room held its breath. My parents sat frozen on my couch. Elise stood near the door with the IG investigators, and I held the cabin's keys in my hand, heavy brass keys I'd carried through 3 deployments, kept on the same ring as my dog tags. Hollis stepped forward, document in hand. Before anyone leaves, there's the matter of the property. Mrs. and Mr. Lakefield, you attempted to coerce a property transfer under false pretenses. Under state law, that constitutes attempted fraud. Mom's face went pale. Dad's judge instincts kicked in. We were acting on information provided by Colonel Marrow, who's now under federal investigation. Hollis interrupted. Your daughter, Nora, owns this property free and clear. Any attempt to force transfer was illegal. I set the keys on my handcrafted table with deliberate precision. The sound echoed. These stay with me, I said, looking directly at Mom. You called me weak, but weakness would be giving up what I earned to keep false peace. Strength is standing here, in my home, while you face the truth you helped create. The lead investigator checked his phone. Colonel Marrow, headquarters confirmed your suspension. We need your weapon and base access card now. Elise's hand went to her hip, to the sidearm she'd worn like a badge of superiority, the same motion she'd commanded of me 4 days ago. Her fingers trembled as she unholstered it, removed the magazine, cleared the chamber mechanical movements that couldn't hide her shaking hands. The investigator took the weapon, then held out his hand for her access card. Elise pulled it from her chest pocket, the plastic card that had opened every door at Stonebridge. Now useless. Your vehicle has base stickers, Major Brandt noted. Those need to be removed before you leave the property. This is excessive, Mom protested, standing. She's still a colonel, a suspended colonel, Brandt corrected. Under investigation for destruction of federal property, falsifying official documents, and abuse of authority. The suspension stands whether it happens here or at base. At least here. It's just family witnessing it. Just family. The words hung like smoke. I walked to my desk, pulled out 2 documents Hollis had prepared. Since we're handling legal matters, these need signatures too. The first, acknowledgement of property rights and cease and desist. The second, no contact and property boundary agreement. You're restraining ordering your own parents, Elise spat, even as an investigator stood beside her taking notes. I'm establishing boundaries. 200 meters from my property line. No attempts at contact without legal counsel present. Violation results in immediate law enforcement response. Dad read through the documents with professional speed. His pen hesitated over the signature line. This is comprehensive. You taught me to be thorough. Sign it. He signed. Mom's hand shook as she took the pen. Her perfect composure cracked like old paint. She signed without reading, eyes locked on Elise. Now you, I said to Elise. I'm not signing anything without my lawyer. Then don't come within 200 meters of my property until you do. I turned to the investigators. That's trespassing, correct? Correct. The lead confirmed. Elise snatched the pen, signed with angry slashes, threw it on the table. I picked up my keys again, held them up so everyone could see. These represent something none of you understood, not power or position or family legacy. Just a place I built with my own hands, bought with my own sacrifices, defended with my own strength. Walking to the door, I opened it wide. Everyone out, now. The investigators left first, Elise between them. She paused at the threshold, turned back. You think you've won. I think I've survived. There's a difference. My parents rose slowly. Mom approached me, stopped just out of reach. Nora, despite everything. Despite everything, you chose her. You always chose her. Even now, you're angry at me for defending myself, not at her for attacking me. She's our daughter. So am I. You just never noticed. Dad touched Mom's elbow, guided her toward the door. At the threshold, he looked back. The investigation will clear her. Connections, favors. Maybe, but everyone will know what she did. Every subordinate, every superior, every peer. They'll know she destroyed critical infrastructure because she couldn't stand her sister's success. That reputation won't wash off. They left in a processional investigator's sedan, Elise's car, my parents' vehicles. I stood on my porch, keys in hand, watching taillights disappear down the mountain road. Major Brandt had stayed behind, standing by her vehicle. Captain sorry, Ms. Lakefield. Off the record. I nodded. General Santos reviewed your security protocols yesterday. She wants to know if you'd consider consulting. Civilian contractor, your own terms. The base needs those systems rebuilt properly. I'll think about it. Also, she pulled out an envelope. 43 of your former team members signed this. They wanted you to have it. I opened it after she left. A single page, 43 signatures under simple text. We stand with Nora Lakefield. Integrity before orders, honor before politics, strength before power. The sun was setting over Lake Larkwater, painting the sky in shades of victory and loss. I locked my door, with my keys, in my cabin and stood in the silence. The war was over. I'd won by every metric that mattered. But victories in family wars don't come with medals or ceremonies. They come with empty rooms and silent phones and the echo of your own breathing in a space you defended but no one will ever visit. I set the keys on their hook by the door, brass catching the last light. They were mine. That was enough. That had to be enough. The cabin was mine again. Truly mine, in the way that only defended territory can be. I stood alone in the living room where hours ago my family had sat, where investigations had begun, where my sister's career had crumbled. The projector was off, the recording equipment packed away. Just me and the settling bones of this house I'd built. I walked to my workshop, knelt by the drill press platform, and lifted the false bottom. The encrypted drives were still there, my insurance, my proof, my vindication. I pulled them out, held them for a moment, then set them aside. Beneath them was something else, a metal lockbox I'd buried deeper. Inside, the original deed to the cabin, my deployment photos, and 3 years of backup files, everything Elise had tried to destroy, preserved in triplicate. The physical evidence of a life earned, not given. I replaced the drives but kept the deed, carrying it to the kitchen table. The paper was crisp, official, stamped with the county seal. Nora Lakefield, sole owner. No family trust, no shared claim, no weakness in the language. My phone sat silent on the counter. No texts from Mom, no calls from Dad, no threats from Elise. The first real quiet I'd known in years. I pulled out my field notebook, the one I'd started with AAR After Action Review just 4 days ago. The pages were full now. Timestamps, evidence chains, tactical decisions. The record of a war fought and won. On a fresh page, I wrote mission complete. Then I added 3 bullet points. Truth documented and distributed assets secured with legal protection. Hostile forces neutralized clean. Simple, accurate. The sun had set completely now. leaving the cabin lit only by kitchen lights. I walked through each room, checking windows, testing locks, old habits from deployment. Everything secure, everything mine. In the bedroom, I opened the closet where my uniform still hung. Captain's insignia still on the collar. They'd stripped my position but forgotten to demand the actual uniform back. I touched the fabric, felt the years of service in its weave, then closed the closet door. That chapter was over. Back in the living room, I stood before the window overlooking Lake Larkwater. The moon was rising, casting silver paths across the black water. Somewhere down the mountain, my parents were probably sitting in their perfect house, trying to understand how their weak daughter had won. Somewhere else, Elise was calling in favors, trying to salvage a career built on stepping stones of other people's backs. But here, in this cabin, there was only peace. I opened my laptop one last time, pulled up the email from Major Brandt about the consulting position. Good money, my own terms, a chance to rebuild what Elise had destroyed, but properly this time, without the politics or family shadows. I typed a simple response. Interested. Let's discuss terms Monday. Then I closed the laptop, walked to the door, and lifted my keys from their hook. The brass was warm from the day's sun, familiar in my palm. I stepped onto the porch, locked the door behind me, and stood in the mountain darkness. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of earned solitude, of defended boundaries, of strength that didn't need anyone else's validation. This wasn't the silence of weakness or isolation. This was the silence of someone who'd fought for their space and won it. Clean and clear. I thought about Mom's words, still weak. She'd been wrong, but not in the way she'd think. My strength had never been about matching Elise's ruthlessness or Mom's cold perfection. It had been about this standing my ground, documenting truth, and refusing to let anyone take what I'd earned. The keys caught moonlight as I turned them over in my hand. 3 keys, front door, back door, workshop. Each one a border, a line that said, "This is mine." I earned it, and I'll defend it. No apologies would come, no reconciliation, no tearful family reunion. That only happened in stories where the villains learned their lessons. In real life, they just learned to stay away. And that was enough. I went back inside, hung the keys on their hook, and prepared for my first night of real sleep in years. Tomorrow, I'd start rebuilding my career, my life, my future. But tonight, in my cabin by the lake, with my keys on my hook and my deed on my table, I was exactly where I belonged. Alone, but not lonely. Betrayed, but not broken. Still standing. The moon climbed higher over Lake Larkwater, and somewhere in the distance, an owl called the sound, carrying across the water like a benediction, like nature itself acknowledging what I'd always known. This place was mine. I was strong enough to keep it, and nobody, not family, not blood, not anybody would ever make me doubt that again. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your experiences and perspectives make these stories come alive. Until next time, stay strong and keep fighting for what's yours.